And in 2019, the first unconfiscatable conference was born. So that's basically it. So if anyone Googles the word unconfiscatable, you find the Tone Vays event brand. It has a poker tournament alongside it. It has a carnivory dinner. A lot of us are just straight up meat eaters in the Bitcoin world. And we have an award show. It's called the Scammy Awards, where we give out awards to the scammers of the year. This year, I got to check who we're nominating this year. The event is going to be in the middle of September. So by the time this video publishes, probably a week away. It's in Las Vegas.
Welcome back to another episode of Bitfinex Talks. I'm your host, Ricardo Martinez. Today, I have the pleasure to be joined by the legendary Bitcoin trader, Tone Vays. I first found out about Tone, I want to say around 2014 or 15, when he launched his YouTube show, Trading Bitcoin. I used to watch it pretty religiously up until about 2019 or 20, when I stopped trading Bitcoin because I'm not a good trader. But Tone, thank you for coming on the show, man. This is an honor for me. I've been a longtime fan of yours. Your show was amazing. Are you still doing it, by the way, or are you focusing more on other things these days?
I was writing articles for Cointelegraph. That's kind of how I got started in this space. I started out as a public speaker and writing articles.
Okay.
I spoke at a couple of conferences from my Wall Street background. There weren't many, active Wall Street guys that with experience that were also into Bitcoin. So I was able to get speaking gigs very, very early on, starting with early 2014. Instantly got discovered, I guess, by publications. Cointelegraph was just launching. They asked me to write, a Bitcoin analysis series for that publication, and that immediately got me a lot of interviews as well. I was on the World Crypto Network for about a year and a half, and then launched my own YouTube channel in October of 2016, and that's the channel that got the most popularity. And then I still do podcasts. I still do videos on my personal channel, but they're no longer about Bitcoin. I used to run like news shows, law show, analysis show, interviews, everything. But in light of current events in the last 5 years, starting with the BLM protests, and then the COVID lockdowns, and then the vaccine mandates, and then the Trump election, and since then, the wars in Russia, Ukraine, in Israel, Gaza. My personal channel has become more geopolitical, and the
Okay.
reason why you don't see me anymore is because I am as shadow banned as it gets, without having my social media and YouTube channel completely deleted. And my shadow ban on Twitter remains. Elon Musk changed it for like a few weeks, and then it went back to what it was. I am I'm a bit of a toxic person to the traditional media, basically. So what I've done is I've moved my Bitcoin and financial content. Well, I moved my financial content to the Financial Summit YouTube channel, which is a new channel that doesn't, take political sides at all. We only cover, financial stuff and price analysis, technical analysis. And I may get the Unconfiscatable YouTube channel up and running to cover Bitcoin stuff that isn't trading related. Uh, and uh, and my personal channel is basically a geopolitical channel, because I think that Bitcoin is becoming a commonplace. Eventually, the people that used to teach and spread the words of what the internet is and how to use email, eventually these people don't need to teach how to do email anymore, right? It's become second nature. And I think Bitcoin is very close. I mean, everyone has now heard of Bitcoin. People now are aware of Bitcoin. So having YouTube channels that educate what is Bitcoin, uh, they're they're not as needed anymore as they once were. But having a YouTube channel to spread, freedom ideas is badly needed, and we don't have enough of those channels because most of these channels get very, very banned. So I am refocusing more on how to live, a government-free lifestyle. The difference between Marxism and capitalism, and I focus on these issues, with Bitcoin being a tool to for freedom. Instead of Bitcoin being the most important thing in someone's life, uh, your freedom is the most important thing in your life, and Bitcoin is just one of the tools you use to reach that freedom.
Okay, that makes sense. You've always been kind of passionate about freedom. I recall you used to have like a website called Life Liberty Trail, and you had like a
Yes.
strong focus on like liberty stuff. And then, like you like throughout the years when you were doing trading Bitcoin, like you would talk about the more like cypherpunk aspects of Bitcoin and how important that is like to Bitcoin's value proposition. How did you, as like a Wall Street guy, stumble across Bitcoin to begin with?
Oh, great question. It takes me back down memory lane. So I credit a couple of people for my Bitcoin journey. I'd say the biggest one is Max Kaiser.
Okay.
And again, how did I end up on Bitcoin? Unfortunately, uh, for me, well, the way most people have heard of Bitcoin, a friend of theirs, usually the friend with crazy ideas, stumbles onto Bitcoin first and then tells you about it. And most people ignore it like all the other ideas from that friend. That's how most people have heard of Bitcoin. That wasn't my journey. I didn't have a lot of like libertarian friends, and I was the one that is doing that. So the way I heard about Bitcoin for the first time was from Max Kaiser's show on RT called well, the Kaiser Report. And
Mhm.
the reason why I was watching RT to begin with is, again, goes back to politics. I didn't care about politics when I was younger, but in the 2012 election, so going into the 2012 US election, so it would have been 2011, early 2011, I really liked Ron Paul. He was running for
Me
president,
too.
and there was nowhere to watch Ron Paul interviews. He was basically blacklisted on mainstream media. So the only way to like follow some of the Ron Paul interviews in his campaign was on two channels. Ironically, RT, which is a Russian channel, and Al Jazeera, which is a Middle Eastern channel, right? So you would think America and the West is where you find freedom, but apparently that's not where you get to find interviews of American freedom-minded presidential candidates. You find them on Russian television, and you find them on Qatar television, right, smack in the Middle East. And by watching RT, I found the Kaiser report, and I found another show called Capital Account. Now, Max Kaiser mentioned Bitcoin the most, and Capital Account, that show mentioned it occasionally, but they were both fans of Bitcoin. And the first time it came on my radar was when WikiLeaks was starting to accept Bitcoin for donations, which they first uh, decided to maybe start accepting it in December of 2011. And then they eventually accepted it in like June or July. Sorry, they first were considering accepting it in December of 2010. And then they actually accepted it in the summer of 2011, June or July. I should remember the exact date, but somewhere in that region. So sometime between December of 2010 and the summer of 2011 is when I heard about Bitcoin for the first time. Now, when did I take Bitcoin seriously? I didn't take it seriously until 2013. So in 2013, in April of 2013, when the Cyprus banks got shut down and there was a bail-in, when the European Union forced the Cyprus banks to confiscate 50% of everyone's money in their bank account to bail in the Cyprus banks. It was 50% above 100,000 euros. And I was already working on Wall Street. I was saving money. I already bought my condo, and I was saving money for another condo. So when you have more than $100,000 in the bank, because you're saving for something, you're trying to save for a house, and suddenly the bank decides to confiscate your money, um, that really bothered
It's a
me,
wake up call.
especially if I'm already spent the last 3 or 4 years following this. I'm already buying gold. I'm already becoming a gold bug. Uh, I'm not happy with where politics is going, and that's what got me interested in researching. Okay, where can you put your life savings, or where can you put any savings that is unconfiscatable by another government? And the only answer is Bitcoin. And the word unconfiscatable actually didn't exist. I, uh, I, I don't know if I'm the first one that said it. I might have been the first one that said it, but I'm
You're the
definitely
first
the
one that I
first.
remember saying it, to be
But I'm
honest.
definitely the first one that kept saying it, and that's why I own the brand, and I'm in the middle of trying to get the trademark on the brand. I filed last year. It takes a little while because it's a word that's not in the English language. But I basically made the word unconfiscatable popular. I ended up getting the domain. One of my followers actually messaged me in early 2017, and he said, "Hey, Tone, you keep saying the word unconfiscatable. The domain is available for $12. You may want to buy it before someone else does, or I'm going to do it next week." And I'm like, "Holy shit." So I immediately went and bought the domain. And then I didn't know what to do with the unconfiscatable domain. I'm like, I want it to be some kind of a brand. And then in 2018, decided to do a Bitcoin only conference. And in 2019, the first unconfiscatable conference was born. So that's basically it. So if anyone Googles the word unconfiscatable, you find the Tone Vase event brand. It has a poker tournament alongside it. It has a carnivory dinner. A lot of us are just straight up meat eaters in the Bitcoin world. And we have an award show. It's called the Scammy Awards, where we give out awards to the scammers of the year. This year, I got to check who we're nominating this year. The event is going to be in the middle of September. So by the time this video publishes, probably a week away. It's in Las Vegas. If anyone's watching this and you're
Give the
nearby,
exact dates and the website so people can get tickets and all that kind of stuff.
well, the website is the word unconfiscatable. It should be very,
Okay.
very easy to find. And it's more of a hangout event. It used to be a bigger production. Now we just rent really cool bars and we just hang out at a bar. We do some panels there. The carnivory dinner is going to be Monday the 16th. Our poker tournament and hangout with like bowling and arcades and a bunch of other cool stuff is going to be the next day, Tuesday the 17th. Our event day is also at a cool bar, followed by the Scammy Awards Wednesday. And then on Thursday, I'm just throwing a big party in my suite, probably about 50 to 70 people. There'll always be a little bit of poker there as well. And the future of Unconfiscatable is just going to become a Bitcoin poker tournament. And I'm going to uh, go into uh, like a relationship or partnership with other Bitcoin conferences. I guess it doesn't have to be a Bitcoin conference, but I'm pretty much a Bitcoin maxi. And I want to do like three, maybe 2 to 4 Bitcoin poker tournaments, a poker tournament that's fully denominated in Bitcoin. The buy-in is in Bitcoin and your payout is in Bitcoin. And we get the cool prizes plus the financial aspect of it. We don't take a cut, we don't take a rake, we don't want to break gambling laws. As long as I'm not profiting from the event, other than maybe a sponsor comes in and covers the expenses, then we're not breaking any gambling laws in most U.S. states and most countries around the world. So there'll be an unconfiscatable poker tournament at a conference near you sometime in the future, maybe.
Okay, cool. And that event in September is going to take place in what part of the world? In the
It's in
US?
Las Vegas.
Oh, in Las Vegas. Okay,
In
cool.
Las Vegas, yeah.
Nice. That's a fun place for everybody to go visit.
Yeah, the unconfiscatable has always been in Las Vegas. When it becomes a roaming poker tournament, it'll branch around the world a bit, but it'll always have a Las Vegas home.
Nice. Are you planning on doing any in El Salvador? I know there's the upcoming Adopting Bitcoin conference that's taking place, I think in November in El Salvador.
Yeah, ironically, I'm wearing El Salvador shirt. It just happens to be luck. Yeah, I'll be at Adopting Bitcoin. I've significantly cut back on traveling to conferences and speaking. This year, I only spoke at BitBlock Boom earlier this year. My conference is coming up, and then I'll be uh, adopting Bitcoin in El Salvador. I really like Latin America. I live in Latin America. I normally live in Panama. Right now, I came up to visit family up in the Northeast at the cabin for Labor Day weekend. I'll be heading, and from here, I'm going to head to Vegas and then I'll be back. I really like what they're building out in El Salvador. I really like what they're building down on the island of Rotan, Honduras. I've already been there 2, 3 times this year. I'll probably be going back there. There's a really cool Bitcoin private city being built. I don't want to call it a Bitcoin city. It's a private city that is that uses Bitcoin as legal tender as well,
That's
just like El
Prospera
Salvador.
that you're
That
referring
is
to, correct?
Prospera, yeah. I absolutely love that project. I've done multiple interviews with the Prospera team. People can find them on my YouTube channel, and I am looking to invest down there in Prospera myself. Really, really like what they're building, and of course El Salvador. So I will be down in El Salvador, and we'll probably have that will be the first unconfiscatable poker tournament outside of Las Vegas. Will take place in El Salvador during adopting Bitcoin.
Famously, when you were doing trading Bitcoin, you used to always say that you don't trade. Have you started trading since you're not focusing so much on doing the Bitcoin content?
Yeah, so I'm still not actively trading. It is still very, very hard. Trading requires a lot of focus. And I quit my Wall Street job to be a trader. My Wall Street job, I was on the quant team building risk models for hedge funds, basically, to sum it up in a single sentence. And I always wanted to just be an independent trader. I never liked managing other people's money. I just like managing my own money. So that's what I quit to do. And then this Bitcoin stuff and this public speaking stuff just happened to take off. And I am looking to get back into trading, but as long as I still have my trading show every day on YouTube, and I
Okay.
also have another event called the Financial Summit, which is a 5-day retreat for traders. And I'm still have unconfiscatable coming up. I still doing interviews. I'm still too busy to focus on trading. And I keep saying, next year, next year, next year, and maybe next year, right? So as unconfiscatable conference dies down, it's hard. I'm still doing a lot of travel. I still haven't found a consistent home, and I still trade my retirement account, but I'm not actively trading. I don't want to enter positions more than once a month or something. I rebalance my portfolio, things like that, and and also I know a lot of people say, well, how come he's teaching you how to trade and he doesn't actually trade? It's a double-edged sword. If I'm not in a position, I'm better to give people for free my unbiased opinion on the asset, right? If I'm holding Tesla stock and I'm trying to analyze a Tesla chart, I'm going to be biased because I'm in a position, whether that position is to the long side or to the short side. And if I have no investment in that stock, I can analyze that stock with absolutely zero bias. So I know a lot of people kind of get upset. How come he's analyzing these positions and he thinks Tesla is going to go up? I'm just or down, and he doesn't put his money where his mouth is. Well, yeah, but if I put my money where my mouth is, I probably wouldn't talk about it, right? I'd keep it to myself and be private. So again, it's a double-edged sword. I don't charge for my YouTube channel. I don't have content behind a paywall. People are free to watch it or not, right? You can always go and watch other analysts. So that's kind of been my viewpoint on it. I used to also travel and teach workshops on trading. I never wanted people to follow my trading either. I want to teach people how to make their own decisions. And that's why I never had any recurring upselling of any services. I either sell a one-time trading workshop that should give you the tools to then make your own decisions. I have a trading indicator that I use to analyze stocks and cryptocurrencies and everything religiously. That's the indicator I use. I've been meaning to take time off and write some kind of a trading bot using that indicator, which would be challenging because it does require some, uh, you know, thought process before you enter a trade using the indicator. But again, it's a one-time fee for the indicator. And from that point on, you need to make your own decisions. I just try to provide tools for people to then be responsible for all their own choices. I never want to manage other people's money. And I never wanted people to blindly follow my trading or anyone else's trading. I think it's a recipe for disaster. When you try to follow another trader, you have different risk tolerances. You execute things at different times. You don't know if other traders are, scamming and lying, and they're having, photoshopping some of their positions. So I took a different approach to it. It was very popular when I started on YouTube because having a podcast, as you know, is incredibly hard, and it becomes harder and harder. Back when I started on YouTube, it was 80% knowledge of the subject and 20% the ability to present that subject. The percentages have completely flipped today. And today, your knowledge of the subject is almost irrelevant. In order to be a popular podcaster, you need high production value. Whether you're talking complete nonsense or you never even studied the subject you're presenting is irrelevant these days. Uh, it's your audio, it's your video, it's your ability to do thumbnails, it's your production quality, it's knowledge of algorithms, and also providing content of what the big companies like YouTube want to promote. You're at the mercy of them. And this is why it's very difficult to break into the content creation space, as you probably know.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a challenge. On that same note, I guess that's a perfect segue into like more than your trading show. The two shows that I really, really enjoyed that you did periodically was Crypto Scam, which kind of goes back to the Scammy Awards that you're still doing at your conference. And then the Bitcoin Law Review was another one that I really, really enjoyed, where you sat down with the lawyers and would talk about like the legal stuff surrounding like Bitcoin and altcoins and stuff like that. Do you plan on doing any more content like in those directions?
Unfortunately, I don't think so. It just became more challenging as the crypto space grew. Uh, it became harder and harder, and also I didn't have a producer. I didn't have again the it was hard to just keeping the show together. It required a lot of prep work, and you just get busier and busier, and without a proper team around you to do the production, it just became very hard for me to keep doing those shows. And
Were you
also my
always like a one-man show? Like you just did it all by yourself?
pretty much mostly. I had like a manager for a little while, an assistant for a little while, and Leah Wald used to help out a lot on the channel. She's now, she became the CEO of Valkyrie and now
Yeah.
became the CEO of uh, what's that hedge fund? She recently switched jobs. Uh, so yeah, at the moment, I'm just a one person, and it's hard. And like I said, my interests, the because my YouTube channel got shadow banned because of my political views. Uh, you know, going out there on January 6th and live streaming didn't exactly make friends. And yeah, and that's what my YouTube channel is going to be. You always got to adapt. You also get kind of bored, and I guess that's always been one of my problems. I've always been changing careers. I didn't start out on Wall Street. My original bachelor's degree was in geology,
Really?
and then I became a teacher, and then I went to Wall Street, and then I quit that and became a trader. And Wall Street was I was a programmer. I was making risk models. Then I became a trader. Then I became a public speaker. Then I became a podcaster, YouTuber, and then now I'm becoming, now I'm just getting involved in the political spectrum. So everything's changing, and pretty soon, maybe within a decade, I want to retire and open a tequila bar.
Nice. Uh, Mike actually sent me the list of tequilas that you have. That is pretty impressive. You got a lot of different ones on there. Uh, Another question I have, I guess, is like now that you're kind of focusing on liberty and freedom, like what do you think of all this stuff that's happening with these developers getting arrested for privacy wallets and Tornado Cash guys getting arrested for creating like a decentralized application, the EU trying to put backdoors in encrypted chat apps? Like we're seeing a huge war on privacy here. Like what are your thoughts about it?
Well, many thoughts, right? Obviously, it's bad. Uh, Um, but at the same time, the only one that understood it is Satoshi, right? Because you can't develop a decentralized app, right? Uh, and I'm not a fan of altcoins. I'm not a fan of Ethereum. Uh, I'm not a fan of Roger Ver. But obviously, I'm on Roger Ver's side for getting arrested for tax evasion 9 years after he surrendered the U.S. passport, right?
Mm.
And I'm not a fan of Ethereum. I have 3 episodes of Crypto Scam about Ethereum. I always thought Ethereum was like a giant scam, and Tornado Cash was an Ethereum thing. Obviously, I always hated and talked badly about Tornado Cash, but at the same time, I think it's wrong for these developers to get arrested. But you also can't program a decentralized application. It's impossible, right? This was the whole point of the Crypto Scam podcast that taught people that you can't have a developer you can call on the phone that claims to have developed a decentralized app. That doesn't happen. Telegram never claimed to be decentralized, it just provided encryption. And this goes back to how important Bitcoin is. Bitcoin is decentralized because you can't call its founder to solve the problems. And there's nothing you can do to stop Bitcoin. So applications need to be built in a way that are unstoppable, that don't have developers on speed dial. And the first article I ever wrote on my blog, the Liberty Life Trail blog, you know, before Tom Vays' name became the brand, I wanted to do a freedom blog, and I don't remember what my first post was. I think my first post was how to hike the Grand Canyon in one day. But my second post was about Bitcoin, and it was literally about how every single Bitcoiner in America is likely a federal criminal. And my view on that article has not changed, right? We're all taking a risk. Every Bitcoin transaction is basically adversarial to the US government and to most governments. There's only 2 places, maybe 3, where a Bitcoin transaction is not illegal. One is El Salvador, and the other is in Prospera, on the Prospera Zeti and the island of Honduras. Maybe Madeira as well, and that's almost it. That's almost it. Everything else, you don't know. So this is the problem. And more people need to be aware of the tyrannical nature of governments. And the more people are aware of the tyrannical nature of governments, the more people are going to be freedom minded. And the more lawmakers are freedom minded. And then you don't end up in a situation where your $5 cup of coffee transaction may or may not violate the Bank Secrecy Act.
Yeah, I can see that. Do you feel like with these regulatory crackdowns that we've seen under the current administration in the U.S., do you expect those to continue and get more and more intense, like as time goes on?
Yeah, I do. I do. I don't see it getting any better. I think just the number of politicians that have a tyrannical nature is only increasing. Their fear is only increasing. I have my own views on politics, and I think the West is in serious, serious trouble. I made a presentation as far back, I think, as 2017, I want to say, 2017 or 2018, where I said the future of the world is going to be BRICS, and the West is going to collapse. And everything since then, everything the West has done, and by West I mean U.S., Canada, UK, Western Europe, Japan, uh, Australia, New Zealand. That's basically the West. And
Okay.
France, Spain, Germany. That's what I consider West. And everything the West has done is speeding up the collapse. Now we don't notice it And while I am expecting a total collapse of Western society, uh, the stock market, I believe, will continue to rise. But once the inevitable collapse comes, that's when the stock market will probably collapse. So, unlike the gloom and doomers that I remember going back to when I was, first starting out, guys like Doug Casey and Mark Faber's and all the rest of them. Unlike them, I didn't expect gold to go to $1 million. My expectation on gold is pretty reserved. I think it'll go up, but not substantially. I think the stock market would skyrocket to the upside only because uh, there's too much money in government debt, and people are realizing how dangerous government debt is. And at the end of the day, your money is safer in Tesla and Amazon and Google and Nvidia's of the world, companies that are productive to society, versus the government bond sector.
Okay. And my last question, because we're getting to the end of the line here, is like a lot of people seem to think that Bitcoin may absorb all this government debt. Like if the US government, for instance, does pursue like a strategic Bitcoin reserve, or if all these companies start hoarding Bitcoin for like their treasuries, like, do you see Bitcoin playing a significant role in like absorbing this kind of debt?
I do, but I'm not. The last thing I want to see is the US government collecting Bitcoin for its strategic reserve. This was one of my issues with the book. What was the book? The Soft War, I think.
Okay, the
Uh,
Jason Lowry book.
Jason Lowry book, right.
Yeah.
So I know some people thought that book was absolutely amazing. Uh, I'm not on the same page as that book because that book makes the argument that the U.S. government should be buying Bitcoin for its strategic reserve for, let's say, military purposes. That was
Mhm.
basically the premise of the book. And but the book is written from the perspective that the United States military is a force for good.
Mhm.
And I'm on the perspective that the United States military is a force for evil. At least that's what it's been, for the last 20 years plus. And because I see the United States military as more of a force of global evil, if it was a defensive force, defending the United States from potential adversaries, I would believe it's a force for good. But what I've the only thing I've ever seen U.S. military do is atrocities around the world. So to me, the United States military is a force for evil. So why would I want the United States military? Why would I want to help the United States military use Bitcoin for its purpose? I don't. So if it's a country like El Salvador right now, yeah, I want to see El Salvador put Bitcoin in their treasury, other countries as well. But that also comes with a double-edged sword. The president of El Salvador today is is a force for good. But
Mhm.
we don't know who the president of El Salvador is going to be in 10 years. And that president could be a force for evil. And now that president has a lot of Bitcoin at his disposal, right? Now, El Salvador can't acquire that much Bitcoin, but the US federal government could. So I'm not really on a mission to get the US government to use Bitcoin in a strategic reserve. I'm spreading the word of unconfiscatability, Bitcoin's number one property. And the more individual people store their wealth in an unconfiscatable asset, the more free those people will be. And then they will be able to choose where they want to live in the future. Again, assuming the world isn't uh, controlled by vaccine passports and your ability to travel. So this is why my content is moving towards educating people about freedom versus educating people about Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is just an amazing tool uh, towards your end goal of having maximum freedom.
I think that's a perfect way to close out the interview. I agree completely. And thank you for coming on the show.
No, thank you so much. And I do
Indeed.
think we're entering a bull market. I know a lot of people will be watching this. Well, what does Tone think about the price of Bitcoin? I think this consolidation is going to end within the next 6 weeks or so. I expected the bull market to start in the fourth quarter of this year, and I still expect the bull market to start in the fourth quarter of this year. So there you go. So there's my little price analysis for the end of the year.
Nice. Do you expect rate cuts from the Federal Reserve at any
I
point?
do. I expect one 25 basis point rate cut coming this September. I have expected one 25 basis point rate cut coming in September. I've expected this from around March or April, sometime before the summer. I thought that would be one cut at most this year, and I have not changed my mind, and I'm sticking to it.